Hello everyone. I'm doing a virtual tour of Bellamy Mansion. It was built from 1859 to 1861 by James F. Post as the architect and Rufus Bunnell as a draftsman. This is a classical style house built by slaves and free black artisans for John Dillard Bellamy. He was a physician, planner, and business leader in Wilmington, and wife Eliza McIlhenry Harris. After the fall of Fort Fisher in 1865, it was commandeered as Union Army headquarters during the occupation of Wilmington. It remained in the family until 1972, when transferred to nonprofit Bellamy Mansion Incorporated and opened as the Bellamy Mansion Museum of History and Design Arts by Preservation, North Carolina in 1993. In 1859, Dr. Bellamy hired local architect James F. Post to design his new residence. Post, assisted by young Connecticut draftsman Rufus Bunnell, supervised the talented enslaved carpenters and free black artisans who built the mansion. Although Dr. Bellamy owned plantations in nearby counties, the 22-room landmark was a main residence of Dr. and Mrs. Bellamy and their numerous children. The Bellamy family moved into their new home on the eve of the Civil War, only to be displaced initially by raging yellow fever epidemic and later by the conflict itself. Early in 1865, Wilmington fell to federal troops, and the occupying military administration commandeered the house as their headquarters. When Union General Joseph Hawley refused to return the house to the family after the war, Dr. Bellamy traveled to Washington and was able to personally obtain a pardon from President Andrew Johnson to reclaim his property. The Bellamy Mansion was finished in 1861. All that remained was the planning of the garden. The plan for the landscape garden included a symmetrical series of elliptical and circular ornamental garden areas. The most successful plantings were hardy native species that could withstand the extended hot summers of this area. The garden glowed with bright color throughout the year as camellias, pyracantha, and holly brightened the winter months. Spring brought the delights of daffodils, thrift, snowdrops, spiderwort, cheddar pinks, daylilies, and crepe myrtles. Summer enjoyed oleander and crinum blooms. The fragrance of Cape jasmine enhanced the soft curves of the white shell paths. Other small evergreen varieties kept the garden green throughout the year, and spreading their strong protective branches over all of this beauty were the magnificent magnolia trees. The garden was certainly eye-catching, a little non-traditional, and definitely a source of pride to the Bellamy family. They may even be quite different from our modern conception of a Victorian garden. Family tradition says it was Mrs. Bellamy's interest in plants that inspired the design of this garden and prompted her to keep the botanical notebook on her plants. Unfortunately, the location of this notebook remains a mystery. After Mrs. Bellamy's death in 1907, the garden began a slow decline. Most of what is known about the design of the garden is courtesy of a 2-year process of historical research and archaeological investigation. The archaeology coordinated by the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, revealed that the configuration of the beds and the material, oyster, clam, and scallop shells of the past, historic photographs, and personal recollections revealed the specific plant choices and locations. The photo on the left is the rear servant entrance to the main house. It was used by the servants to monitor Mr. and Mrs. Bellamy's children and conduct daily chores without interfering with their daily business. The photo on the right was the rear entrance used by the Bellamys to enter the house. It led to the dining room where the family would eat. The middle photo is a coal storage. In the late 1800s, coal was a primary heating source and was stored in this location. This is the Bellamy dining room. You will notice this table is set for 8. The Bellamys had 10 children, so they probably had a larger table. It is a good-sized room, but with a bigger table and 12 people, it could be quite busy during the 5-course Christmas meal. Just outside of the dining room is the butler's pantry, where the china is stored and food was staged before being brought into the dining room. Servants might have also taken their meals here, but not at the same time as the family dining. Across the hall from the butler's pantry is the kitchen. In 1861, there was no refrigerators, and the stove and oven were heated by wood. This would have been a very hot room, even though it is in the basement. Notice all the storage cabinets. In the 1816 food preservation, like canning, vegetables, and fruits would be stored here as well as salted meat, root vegetables, and winter squash. Notice the simple workspaces and small stove. Can you imagine cooking for 12 people? This would be a busy place before mealtime, especially when the butler and the other maids and cooks were bustling around this small, hot room. Next to the kitchen is a sewing room. Notice all the irons. These are not electric. The maids had to heat these in the fire. These would be hot. Ouch. These are the stairs in the Bellamy house. From the basement to the main floor, the stairs had a separate handrail. From the first floor to the third floor, the open staircase had one continuously connected handrail, which spiraled around. Can you imagine? 3 flights of continuous handrails. Quite impressive. On the first floor is a library and family parlor. The children would have gathered here for music lessons, schooling, and family story time. Notice the comfy couch and rocking chair. Across the hall from the family parlor and library is the twin parlors, where Mr. and Mrs. Bellamy would host parties for their friends. Children would not be invited to these parties. They were asleep 2 stories up. There is a pocket door in between the 2 parlors, which can slide in place and make the 2 rooms for a his and hers party. Notice all the intricate gold decorations. On the second floor is where Mr. and Mrs. Bellamy had their 3 bedrooms, closets, and the only bathroom in the house. There was a working tub with water from a cistern or a big tank which was filled manually from the well outside by the slaves and servants. The cistern is on the 3rd floor. Can you imagine carrying large buckets of water up 3 flights of stairs? The chamber pot or chair with a basin had to be emptied manually, and the water was carried in small pots pictured in the center for the wash basins. Wash basins were in each bedroom. On the 3rd floor is the children's bedrooms. There were 4 bedrooms to be shared among the 10 Bellamy children. There was also a stage where kids could play and entertain each other. See all their pretty dolls? The stage was not very tall. From the back porch, the slave quarters is visible across a courtyard. Inside the slave quarters, all the windows gave a good view of the Bellamy mansion. The slave quarters had 3 bedrooms. 2 of the 3 had fireplaces, and all were simple, with straw mats on the floor. There were 9 slaves and their children sharing the 3 bedrooms. On the main floor of the slave quarters were 2 rooms. They were likely used to cook and do laundry. See the big pots by the fireplace? These were likely used for laundry. The slave quarters also included twin 5-hole bathrooms. See the 1860s plumbing? It was just a hole dug deep in the ground. P.U. The carriage house fell into disrepair, but was reconstructed and is now where the Bellamy Mansion Visitor and Gift Center is located.